Hi, this is Dalen Soderman with if else 3. Start of the program, we include iOS stream and apply the std prefix to all of namespace. To start the program, we have integer main, or the start of main, and the declaration of num1, 2, and 3 is a double. So when determining which number is larger, middle, or the smallest, you can use a decimal. It won't cause any issues. Lines 16 to 17, we prompt the user for input, and it takes it for 1, 2, and 3. And this is where we repeat the code 3 separate instances with minor variations. Line 19, if number 1 is greater than or equal to number 2, and number 1 is greater than or equal to number 3, number 1 is the largest number. Now, we had a problem like this pretty similar to the exam, which I wish I did it this way instead, because it probably would have saved me a lot of typing. But essentially, the way this works is figures out that number 1 is the largest number, and then 2 more structured commands below here. Kind of like, what's the best way to describe this? It's able to choose the smallest or middle number based on roles that are already fulfilled. If number 1 is already the largest number, there can only be one smallest and one middle number, and it will only be number 3 or number 2. And that's what happens in this if statement. If number 2 is greater than or equal to number 3, see out, num3 is the smallest number, and num2 is the middle number. Because number 2, if it's greater than number 3, would be the middle. This right here would be the smallest. And then there's an else that does the reverse of this in case number 3 is instead greater than number 2. Now, the same logic is applied for the next two instances, save for different variables and different wording. So we have if, and else. Else if number 2 is greater than or equal to number 1, and number 2 is greater than or equal to number 3. This checks if number 2 is the largest number, and then below it does the same thing that it does in this area, except with the other 2 remaining variables. Checks which is the smallest and which is the middle number. Then, if this is not iterated or run over, it'll move down to the else at the very bottom, and it will say that number 3 is the largest number, and this if statement isn't necessary because if number 1 is not the largest number and number 2 isn't the largest number, then number 3 must be the largest number. And then it will check if number 1 or number 2 is greater or less than, and it will output if it's the smallest number or middle number. And then on line 73, we have the closing of the program with return 0. So let's try with, what time is it? 11:07. Actually, oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Nope. We'll do the date. It is February 15th, 2024. 2024 is the largest number, 2 is the smallest number, 15 is the middle number. That's all for this.